Well, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Jashana here to talk about some friggin' books. And I have a new phone, which means it's new camera stuff. So I'm trying the little cinematic thing. Not sure if we're gonna like it or not, but we're fucking around with it today. So, a few books to talk about today, and I have a couple of new releases, and then a couple of, well, just one, reread, and a DNF. Bummer times. I always have a DNF though. The first one to talk about is Anatomy, a Love Story by Dana Schwartz. This is one of the new releases. This was released February? January? Yeah, I think it was January or February. Or maybe, was it last year? Am I drunk? No, it was 2022. I'm sorry. Anyways, doesn't matter. Regardless, this is a young adult gothic romance historical fiction. We are following a young noble woman who wants to be a physician in a time when nobody would even consider the thought of a woman being a physician. And through things that happen in order to take this physician's exam that she needs to take, she's been given permission to take the exam, but she cannot study in the classes with the menfolk, her, male peers. So she needs to get corpses to study the bodies, to study anatomy, in order to prep herself for this physician's exam. We are also following a young man who is struggling through poverty and some really unfortunate circumstances, and he becomes a resurrection man to make some money, which basically means he is stealing corpses from graves. Things happen, they meet, start working together. And we start to see that a lot of poor people are going missing from the surrounding area, and there are rumors that the Roman plague has returned, and everybody's a little anxious and nervous about what this means. So I really enjoyed our main character, Hazel. She's a little spitfire, and generally speaking, I think the whole gothic atmosphere was done pretty well. There were a few moments that were a little lighthearted and kind of sweet, and I don't know, just sweet kids falling in love type of thing, a little lighter moments. But overall, it had a really good kind of gothic atmosphere happening. It just wasn't 100%. And it was super readable. No complaints for me as far as the overall writing style. Regarding the plot and the pacing though, the ending kind of fumbled the bag for me a little bit. I was enjoying the book well enough. We were kind of building up to something, whatever, building up to her trying to take this physician's exam and solving this mystery of what's going on with these people. Is it the Roman plague? If it is, can we cure it, etc. And like a blossoming romance that's happening. I was enjoying all of it. And like I said, it was very easily readable. But then the ending just came in like out of nowhere. It felt very rushed to me. And like I just kind of got hit in the face with like, oh, okay, well, that's what we're doing now, and we're done? All right, cool. It didn't feel, I don't know, like it's one thing, of course, to have a book build up and then have the climax and then stuff happens and whatever, but it was kind of just like build up, bam, it happened. And also, the ending, it turned, without spoiling anything, it just turned a little bit like, it's not really fantasy or magical realism, but like kinda, I don't know, it just, again, it kind of felt like out of nowhere to me. But I think I wouldn't have minded that so much, again, if the ending and the culmination of all of this hadn't just been done and over with so quickly. If it was kind of like, oh, okay, now there's this new element, and like it's not exactly the story I thought it was, and like let's figure out what's going on. But it wasn't. It was just like, bam, new element, bam, we're done. I was just kind of left a little bit like dumbfounded by the ending, I guess. I still would say it's like good, and if kind of the gothic romance historical thing sounds cool to you, check it out, because it was a quick read also, and like overall enjoyable. I don't like regret reading it, For me personally, it's like it was okay. I'm not like happy I read it, but I'm not mad I read it. I'm just kind of like, okay, well, that was a thing I read. So I ended up giving it what I call like my low 3-star, which is 2.75. And the DNF was book 2 of the Vampire Hunter series, Anita Blake series by Laurel K. Hamilton, The Laughing Corpse. How far did I get into this? I got 23% of the way into this, and this was very much a situation of nothing was really wrong with the book. But I said in the first book that I didn't really feel connected to Anita. She's fine. Like, I didn't dislike her as a character. She didn't annoy me or anything. She was just kind of there. But I was like, maybe it's just like first book, blah, blah, blah. But 23% into this one, I kind of felt the same way, where I was just not that enthused about following Anita, really. And for me, what I realized with this that wasn't working for me is just the writing style. It's a very like abrupt writing style, and it makes sense for the type of story this is. It feels very, you know, crime procedural noir film, kind of like a bit of a dry writing style, and just very like clipped, abrupt, and I don't like need a lot of fluff, I guess. Something about this writing style, though, just wasn't, like, grabbing me into the story. It's one where I'm like, I could see myself trying it again someday, but for now, I just... Not for now. I'm very sorry, Roger. I already told him. Next up was the reread, continuing the Throne of Glass reread with Ingrid and Roger. Read Air of Fire. Ingrid finished it, I think, before Roger and I even got a chance to start it. But, yeah, finished this, and... this is, I think, still probably, I don't know, now thrown like the first book or the it's weird because Crown of Midnight was always my favorite just because of the ending. But man, now I'm just like, Kale annoys me to a degree where it like really brought the enjoyment down of that book, because most of Crown of Midnight is Kale and Selena bullshit. And I'm just like, fucking Kale, oh my god. In this one, it's so much, it's a thick bitch, and it's so much of Selena's self-flagellation and just beating herself up about something that just is not justifiable for me. Like, it feels like a very forced, contrived way of saying, look at what a good person they are. They're still beating themselves up about this. I'm like, you can be a good person and also not be like, you know, beating the crap out of yourself internally all day, every day because of this thing that happened to you when you were an actual kid, a child. You know, I'm just like, okay. Again, I'm not saying they can't be like upset that it happened and still be like, man, I really wish I hadn't been a kid. I really wish I'd been able to do something. I still feel bad that happened, but I'm not going to like hold myself fucking responsible when I very clearly wasn't responsible for it. Anyways, I know this is like a lot of people's favorite because of all the like growth and emotional stuff she works through, but it's a little too long and a little too drawn out for me. But it's still fun. We get to meet Manon and Abraxos. I love all of that so fucking much. And we're learning more about what the hell is going on in this world with this weird ass magic and this like dark magic that's happening, and like why the rest of the people don't have any magic, and just all the things. We learn more about Selena's background and her history and her like ancestry and what all that means. So it's still fun and exciting, but like it's a little bit just like, okay, I get it. You hate yourself because of stupid shit. The final, like, 25% of this book is 100% the best part for me. I think the last time I read this, I gave it 3.5. I don't know. I feel like this time around I might give it 3.25. I'll figure it out. But yeah, either 3.25 or 3.5. The last book I have to talk about, I don't have a physical copy yet because I read it from a NetGalley e-arc that I was given in exchange for an honest review. And the book in question is The Final Strife by Sara El-Arifi. And I did look up how to pronounce that first name. I could not find anything conclusive, So if that is your name, or if, God forbid, the author ever sees me talking about this, just because it'd be embarrassing. I like the book, but spoiler. But yeah, my apologies if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. This is adult fantasy, and the release date is June 21st. I have had this e-arc for a hot minute. I started reading this book. Give me a second. Let me see. I started reading it on March 31st, so it took me a minute. It took me about a month. But as I said, it is adult fantasy inspired by Ghanaian folklore and Arabian myths. Scylla dreams of days growing up in the resistance, being told she would spark a revolution that would free the empire from the red-blooded ruling class's tyranny. That spark was extinguished the day she watched her family murdered before her eyes. Anur has been told she's nothing, no one, a disappointment, by the only person who matters, her mother, the most powerful ruler in the empire. But when Scylla and Anur meet, a fire burns between them that could consume the kingdom and their hearts. Hassa moves through the world unseen by upper classes, so she knows what it means to be invisible. But invisibility has its uses. It can hide the most dangerous of secrets, secrets that can reignite a revolution. And when she joins forces with Scylla and Anur, together these grains of sand will become a storm. As the Empire begins a set of trials of combat and skill designed to find its new leaders, the stage is set for blood to flow, power to shift, and cities to burn. I am going to have an individual review for this book. I don't know if it will have gone up already or not. If it has, I'll link it up there for a much more in-depth description of the world and the characters, spoilery and non-spoilery. If I haven't done it yet, that will come later, because I'm going to try really hard not to gush and make this way too long in this book. Oh, and real quick, before I start talking about it further, there are plenty of content warnings for this. God, I'm looking at my notes, and I have a lot. I'm going to try to be really brief here, because I'm already rambling. I really loved this book, though, okay? There is a lot of character development and growth in this book, so when we initially meet our characters, they're pretty flawed, and Anur in particular is pretty annoying. She is, like it said in the synopsis, the daughter of one of the wardens. This is the Warden's Empire. There's 4 wardens that rule, and her mother is the most powerful, and so she has grown up in extreme ignorance. Very naive, very ignorant, very sweet and well-intentioned, but good God, the girl is dumb sometimes and just painfully, obnoxiously ignorant and kind of childish and immature, just like spoiled, like kind of a spoiled brat. So she was a little annoying at first, where I was like, oh my God, please stop. I did appreciate having a main character with a drug addiction. I've never suffered from that, but a lot of people do, you know? And it was interesting and, like I said, appreciated having a main character who was in the throes of a drug addiction, and then we saw her, like, trying to get out of it, and like I said, there's some drug addiction, like drug withdrawal symptoms that she deals with, and things happen with that. Obviously, it's the first book in a series. There's the world building happening and character introductions and getting to know them. And I did really like that the world building, from my perspective, it all was like being shown rather than told, for the most part. It wasn't a bunch of info dumpy stuff. We were like learning about the world as the characters moved through the world, which was really great. I think it was done very well. But Scylla, for the first however long of the book, like at least 10%, if not 10 to 20% of the book, she is like addicted to drugs, and that's all she can think about. It made for a plot where like not much was really happening, obviously. You're just following this character being like, I need to get more drugs. And like I said, you are learning more about the world, you are being introduced to other characters, but just plot-wise, not much was really happening. So I was just really struggling, and I always struggle with ebooks, I should also note that. But yeah, for the characters throughout the book, I found them to be really interesting, complex, and they just felt really well fleshed out and like real people, you know? and I just thought it was done really, really well. And the world is so interesting. I also really appreciated that in this world, it's a very oppressive caste system with the embers at the top, the people with red blood that can do the blood work, the blood magic. And then you have dusters with blue blood that are kind of just like the working class, and kind of living in poverty most of the time. And then the ghostings are the people with clear blood at the bottom, who are the slaves. And they are the people that the content warning for forced amputation and mutilation. Yeah, so it's a very oppressive caste system, but it is not based on, like I said, skin color, race. It is not based on gender or anything like that. It's basically like the low class to the high class, and it's based on the blood color. There is also representation for trans people in this book, trans and non-binary. One of the kind of more main characters, I would say Sila and Anur are very much like the main characters here. And then Hassa is like a close second, almost primary character. And it's looking like as the series goes on, she'll probably be very much a primary character. But Hassa is a trans woman. And it's just kind of like part of their culture, and it's not like a thing. It's not like, ooh, weird, or you need to be like secretive about it or anything like that. It's just like, oh yeah. And she just talks about it all the time, like she transitioned with these herbs. That's the only reason you even know that she's trans, is she talks a few times about these herbs that she took to transition. So you're like, oh, okay. And then like trans or non-binary, they have a name, or two-spirit is also, I think, referenced. They call those folks Musawa. So like if someone is addressing a crowd, they will say, ladies, gentlemen, and Musawa. Like it's just very much an ingrained thing in their society. And homosexuality is just a very normalized, standard thing in their society. So that was really cool too, to see. And I did really like the blood magic, also kind of there's obviously limitations to it, because you can't just keep using your blood forever, you'll die, or pass out, or get sick, or whatever. So with the plot and the pacing, like I said, the beginning was a little hard for me to get into for various reasons, some of which were like personal things with me, with ebook, and also I feel like I've just been kind of, I don't want to say I've been in a reading slump, but I've just been like not getting super gripped by a lot of things I've been reading. So I was very much considering DNFing this. Around like 20%, I was kind of like, dude, I'm struggling. Like I just kind of don't care. And whenever I pick it up, I'm not reading that much. I'm just like struggling to get into it. But I had already DNF'd one NetGalley e-arc this year of an anticipated release. And so I was like, Deshauna, you have to give it to at least 50%. Like, just because it's a NetGalley e-arc, we're going to give it to 50% and just see what happens. And it was around like 30-35% where I was like, okay, yeah, here we go. All right, cool. And then I was in it. I read the last like 40 to 50% in like one sitting in one evening, because I was just like, I gotta finish this. I need to know what the hell is going on and what's going to happen. So yeah, once the plot started moving along and things started picking up, I was very invested. And a couple things to note that are truly shocking. One is there is kind of like a love triangle situation in this book. I don't particularly hate love triangles. That's not a trope that I automatically am just like, ugh, no. But I do find that a lot of the time, like they don't really bug me, but I also don't typically feel like they're done that well, because I don't usually feel like they're very justified. In this book though, it totally made sense to me why this was happening, and I'm not going to give spoilers, but it just made sense. It made sense why this character was kind of being pulled in two directions, and the way the characters like handled it and interacted with each other within this, and the way it all played out and ended up, it just all made sense. More surprising though, prepare yourselves to be shocked that I loved this book, and it very much has the big lie trope. Like, a big lie. However, I didn't care. It didn't bother me. It didn't annoy me. Like, it took me a minute to even realize, like, oh shit, this is the big lie trope happening right now. And it has not bothered me, not one single time, like, at all. But in this, it was like the stakes were really high. The truth was like a fucking bomb. A truth bomb, 100%. So it was very much justified that this character was like holding back telling the truth, because they kind of knew like shit is absolutely gonna hit the fan. And it wasn't just like, oh, I might like lose this person in my life. It was like other stakes involved too. Like could have been really, really bad, depending on how it had gone. So it didn't bug me. And I just feel like that is a testament to how well this book was written. Because that is my most hated trope of all time, for sure. So yeah, a very solid debut novel. I did just talk for way too long in this wrap-up about it. Good God, the fucking individual review, I haven't filmed it yet, is probably going to be really long. While I did struggle to get into the first like 20 to 30%, I don't fault like the book for that necessarily. All that being said though, I loved it so much by the end that I was like for a second like, oh, because of the beginning, maybe I should give it like 4.5 or 4.75. But like I can't stop thinking about this book. I can't, like, I just want to talk about it to everyone. I want to reread it already. Like I genuinely might reread it because, oh my God, it was just, by the end of it, I was just fully invested. I love these characters. This world is so interesting. I cannot wait to see what happens. This was just such an incredibly solid debut novel, in my opinion. One of the most solid debuts I've read in quite some time. I just thoroughly loved it. So, 5 friggin' stars, for sure, for this book. If any of this sounds interesting to you, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Go pre-order this thing. So there we go. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already and you feel so inclined. Leave a comment telling me if you've read any of these, what you thought about them, if any of them sound interesting, if you haven't read them, or just leave a little emoji if you want to say hey and make your presence known. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.